you're a reviewer. You have Golden Sound.
Yeah.
And you're also a headphone show.
Yeah.
I'm Z Reviews and Inner Fetish for IEMs. You're
Oscar from Hifi Pig, but I've also ran my own review site for kind of 12 years.
Hifi Pig. I saw a poster of that music and I was like, were they reviewing porn? So I'm
Why? No, definitely Hifi.
Koji, you are.
ConvinceMeAudio. Hi.
And Jude, I think we all kind of know Jude.
I founded a site called Hifi.
Nobody knows it.
Nobody knows that one.
Around the world, I think too.
Well, hey Jude, you created Hifi and you've seen this industry grow from very small, few options till, international shows, all that good stuff. What do you think is like the coolest part of the growth of the community over time?
Well, the choice of gear is certainly a lot bigger, which was kind of what I was hoping would happen when we started Hifi, because at the time there was, for amplifiers, for example, there was Headroom. For those of you who've been around a long time, you might remember Headroom. There was Meyer Audio. They were out of Germany, and that was pretty much it. There was a Grado RA1. You guys might remember little Grado wood amp. I'm a lot older than probably everybody in here, I'm guessing. But anyway, there was a Grado RA1. There wasn't really a lot of selection. And then for headphones, there was Sennheiser, Grado, AKG, Biodynamic. Not many. Sony. And
Sure.
sure.
Yes,
Well, for headphones, they can cost. And so we were hoping there would be a greater variety of goods. And the DIY market, for example, really was thriving back then. So I guess one of the coolest things is the friendships is the number one thing, I would say. There's definitely a lot of friendships that have been lifelong friendships that I've made, and I know, I'm looking at several friends in the audience now. One of them's John back there. And anyway, we go back. He was actually worked with me on Canjam 2007, 8, 9, and then through several years at Armea. And yeah, lifelong friendships is number one, but the growth in gear choice has been great. The level of engineering has certainly stepped up a great deal. But yeah, I think that's the best answer to the question. It's kind of now the variety is almost insane. I was just having a conversation with John outside about how everything, before with in-ears, it was like hit or miss, is what he said. And then now it's different degrees of good to great. So that's also a really cool thing. Not just with in-ears, in general.
How do you guys find new music to listen to in addition to the gear?
I'm stuck in an endless loop of listening to the same music usually, because you can't assess new music on a new headphone with a new amp and a new deck, so you have to sort of keep it consistent. So if I find new music, it's usually about as yell at my streaming service in low quality to play something I might like, and if I do like it, I take note. And if it sticks, then it gets repeated over and over and over again until I've heard it on 37 things, and then I know what it should probably sound. Because that's the thing is, new music is an unknown until you've heard it on certainly more than one thing. Even if it's the most trusted thing, you got to hear it on something else and something else. So it's kind of hard. Like my music collection, like as far as not like downloads, but just things that I've experienced, has been slowed exponentially because of it. You think it would be the opposite with speakers and headphone reviews, but it's like you can't trust new music. So if here's a movie and there's a soundtrack, I'm like, all right, I really like this particular thing, and I know it, I've heard it, been forced to listen to it, essentially. And other people introducing me to music is really the best way to do it, because it's like they're the vetting process of it. So just like, okay, I think I can work with this, and then just work into the routine, and eventually it becomes like a standard track. It's like the ultimate extended vetting process for music. So it's not as like, I found this new album and I love it. I found this new album, there's 2 songs that might work, and I've listened to them now for 4 months, and I think I can pencil them in for an actual listen on certain things. Yeah, that's how it happens with me, at least.
Moving on from that, so for example, for me personally, I've been building my library since 2004. That's now nearly 20 years. The best functionality for that is radio feature. So on either Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal, unfortunately, there are some others that don't quite catch up to that radio feature, and that's what I rely on these days, because it's the best algorithm to bring you something that is as close to what you like and what your preference is. And then, like Z says, obviously you have to listen to it so many times before you become familiar with it, so that you can actually test an equipment. It's very difficult to judge transducers, amplifiers, or especially DAC, where if it's a track you barely know, and it's a DAC you barely know, amplifier barely know. So for me, it's the radio feature. It's a game changer.
I'm kind of the same with recommendation services, so I use Room a lot, and I talk about it a lot, not because I'm sponsored by them or anything. I'm not, I just think it's great.
You're not?
No,
You should be at this point.
Yeah, their recommendation algorithm has been the best for me, but also I get quite a lot of music from people in my Patreon Telegram chat. If you just search for like song.link, there's thousands and thousands of results because all of us are sharing stuff constantly. So I get a lot of good stuff through there. Anything else is through radio. A lot of people ask me, like, do you have a playlist of the music that you use to test stuff? And the answer is no, just because it changes all the time. I've got a couple specific songs which I use to test individual, very specific aspects, which I kind of just keep going back to. But for the most part, I tend to judge gear with songs that I'm familiar with in that I've been listening to them a lot recently. And I try and kind of listen on my reference setups, but then also on a couple other things that I've got at the time. So as Z mentioned, you can't just listen to it on one thing, and because it's an unknown, you have to compare it across things. But I don't find myself wanting to use the same test tracks over and over and over again. I want to listen to stuff and enjoy the listening process, which means listening to stuff that is fresh as well.
Yeah, I'm same as well. I'm a Roon user, so Roon Radio is a really good way of finding new music. And very much like Cameron as well, it's like I'd rather judge gear with a varied kind of mixture of music rather than just sticking to the same test tracks over and over again, whilst again having a couple of tracks that I know really well that I will then obviously critically test gear with. The other thing is gigs. So you go to a gig, see a band, see a support band. Every now and again, you'll find a new band there as well. So live music's also one of those really good places to discover new music.
I'm old, so I come from a place where I was just talking to a friend this afternoon about buying albums, vinyl, and which is why I also use Room, and they're not a sponsor either. Okay, fine. For me, I pick music. I used to kind of pick it more for. I pay more attention to the recording quality. I tend not to do that as much anymore because a lot of the music that moves me the most. I'm a very emotional. I was just telling a friend over lunch that I'm a crier. I don't care as much anymore about the recording quality as much as. I can't remember what they said. I saw something that said we listen to a lot less new music beyond the age of 30. I don't know who's beyond the age of 30.
Me.
Am I the only one?
There's one here.
So I'm 53 years old, and so the music that moves me is some of the stuff that I had when I was young, and some of the recordings there are great, and some are not good. So I'm just looking for music that moves me. I had a test playlist. I have a test playlist that just kept growing, and a lot of the tracks in there I kind of got tired of listening to, and I realized I wasn't really being a head fighter anymore. I was just kind of being a playlist listener. And so I wanted to go back to just how it used to be. So lately I've been just trying to find music that moves me. Found a new track from actually a friend who's a musician who I recently added to my playlist. And for me, I'm just looking for music that moves me. So it's less about the recording quality for me nowadays. Although if it has great recording quality, that's a bonus. And then it's just, one of the things that I was able to do also is I've been to a lot of the Chesky recording sessions. So that's kind of a nice reference because I was there. And the one thing you realize when you go to the sessions and then you listen to the recordings is you're not going to get through your rig, I don't care how good it is, what you heard there. And so, but one of the things that I heard there was, if you guys heard the Bluegrass album that he did, I was there for that session. And I've told the story before. I was there and she did Black as Crow, which is on the album. What's that one called? From the Mountaintop, I think, or something like that. And that one, because I know that song, and that made me cry a lot. So when I was crying, it was actually embarrassing because I started, my nose runs when I cry. and I didn't have any tissue, and they were recording it. So I couldn't move because I was sitting on a church pew, and it creaked. So I'm looking for, I had a short sleeve shirt on, so I didn't even have a sleeve to wipe my nose with. And I'm literally just, it was gross. And so Noah, the singer, looks over at me, and I thought she was going to start laughing. I thought I was going to ruin the track because I looked disgusting. And I couldn't find any tissue. I didn't have a sleeve. So I had to wait until the song was over. And then when it was over and it got to room noise, and David came on the speaker and said, "All right, that was a great take, Noah." And if you guys know David Chesky, that's what he sounds like. And once I knew it was over, I reached in my backpack immediately, grabbed tissue, and was like slobbering all over my nose. I mean, wiping all my slobber off my nose. And I looked at Noah, and I thought she was going to start laughing, but she didn't. She looked over at me, and I said, "You got me on that one." And she said, "Thank you very much." Like, it was very sweet. It was a very sweet moment. So I was glad I didn't ruin the take. They didn't use that take, but so it kept getting better and better. But the point was, I started listening to. I got sent those tracks before they put it up, and I actually realized something that was interesting. I was trying to find neutral headphones at the time, a lot, and Jerry Harvey and I would argue. And if there was alcohol involved, we'd argue vehemently, because he'd say, "Man, why do you listen to all this cold sounding headphones? I've listened to some of the ones you said you like, and they're like super cold. I need something that really hit." Oh shoot! I just realized I have a microphone on. And I just did it. Sorry. I need something that really hits me, and I disagreed with him. I said, "It is just what it is. We like what we like." But then, actually, the reason I brought up that album and the experience is I was on vacation. And all I had was a warm headphone from Sony that was new. I don't remember the model. It might have been the Z7. Z7 had, like a lift to the lower end. And anyway, I was listening to it, and I'd heard that track a couple times, but through that headphone, I got the tears again. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I mean, it's like, how come I didn't have it before? So when I went home, I wanted to test. I had just picked up an LCD-X when it was new, and an LCD, I think it was a 3, and I ended up getting 2 LCD-Xs and 1 LCD-3. And I wanted to compare the two, and lo and behold, for me anyway, and I'm not saying this is going to be true for any of you, the warmer headphones, the richer sounding headphones for me, brought that emotion back.
I actually have something to say about this. Only recently have I realized that emotion is in the low end. You could talk about treble and how clear it is in the air, but I don't cry. I cry. I'm a crier like him. I just don't have the camera pointed at my face, luckily, most of the time. But I will find if there's not just a lot of low end, just like it has to be the right amount. So it has to be something there that brings it more than anything. Like no matter how clear the treble is, it'll never make me cry because of it. If the warmth is there, I notice it. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's just whatever it is, and maybe it's different for other people, but for me, I started kind of gravitating toward fuller sounding headphones.
For me, it's the mid-range. If the mid-range is slightly out, or if it's slightly recessed, the connection between analytical in my brain and subjective falling into music and just feeling it with every fiber of your being is in the mid-range. And immediately, if a headphone is slightly kind of deviating from what my brain perceives as perfect timbre or realism or a certain neutrality in that range that is close to realism, I go straight into analytical mode. So mid-range for me personally.
Yeah, my test track playlist, since removing it from YouTube, I used to do the sound demos that would go on YouTube. But lawyers are just the worst. No offense. No offense to people who might have lawyers as daughters. But it became so increasingly difficult that I just made them private. So the sound demo was not private, which the amount of burden that was on me, like, I have to pick legally acceptable tracks, do just like whatever I like, and my test track list is exploded. And it's like, oh my God, I could do anything because I'm not under this veil of like, were they going to mute my audio in 6 months? Like, I used to use AC/DC. Not great recording quality, I'll admit, I love AC/DC, not great recording. But it was like, I can't play it because if you hear the dan and then lawyers and your video's gone. So that's sort of like the public thing of my music taste. Obviously in private, listen to anything you want. But it's like, it's nice to know that I can now do all my testing and share it. Certainly share the music I'm listening to a little bit with like supporters directly, because it opens it up.
That's something which, because all my videos I used to put music in them because I wasn't interested in monetizing them. I wanted to make the best videos, and I thought, it made for a more enjoyable video, and also actually helped to kind of put forward what I was talking.
Yeah, you think making videos about headphones and speakers, you have music in it, but
I know, what a concept, right? But the problem is that even though it is something which I'm sad that is changing on YouTube, because it used to be it's just a case of, well, the money will just go to the artist, which actually is fine. Like I said, I'm not interested in monetizing it, so I just put music in it. But now, increasingly so, not the artists themselves, it's companies which actually do this as a service. They either take the video down 6 months later, they mute the audio, or you just get an outright strike, which is even worse. And so I've had to mostly stop doing that now. I've actually got a few artists that I've just emailed and asked if I can put their stuff in, and they said yes, which is great. But that's one thing which is kind of, I'm sad that is changing on YouTube, because
it's problematic when they just completely just mute the video utterly, so that even the conversation over the music is actually just muted, so that nobody can get any benefit out of it whatsoever, which is, you're going to have to avoid it, which is very, very sad, definitely.
Again, it was decisions made, because I know AC/DC maybe would have gotten like copyright claim, which takes some money, that's fine. But then all of every single video that had any AC/DC in the background was blocked. And that's when you're in fear of playing music that you love and sharing it with people. You can say the words, but it's not the same thing. So yeah, no, as far as, this all started from how do you find new music, so I don't know how we got
Honest, be a written reviewer, much easier. I have to do videos.
I mean, do you write in the lyrics like...
No. I used to have a set playlist. I used to put all the tracks there, but then again, it does get boring after a while. So you don't want to be just repeating all the same stuff all the time. So again, like, it's good to have some reference tracks, but then
you can't just
the rest of it, you want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would usually find that my playlist would be like, this is my favorite playlist, and it started with 20 songs, become 500, and then I have to make another sub playlist that is now the real ones. Now it's the real ones, and then that slowly grows until there's too many.
I have the same thing. I have like speaker demo version 1, and then version 2 2 weeks later.
What I wanted to ask is, how do you, they say the best way to lose the passion for your hobby is to make it your job. Is there anything you guys actively do to keep the passion, rather than go, set headphones, work, it's at work?
Can I take this one? Is that all right?
Okay.
So I started the channel, I think I'm the youngest reviewer out of us lot here. And in a very short amount of time, I think I've hit the highest products in our kind of cumulative collection, hobbyist as it were. The HE1, the Shangri-La Senior, the Aperio. And obviously, I came from the other side. I've been in this hobby for the last 23 years. And for me, it was always speakers and never headphones or IEMs and stuff. And it was always about the music. I think that's what we've got to remember at the end of the day. A certain song should bring the same emotions whether you're listening with your missus or your partner, whoever, in the kitchen, on, for example, like, I don't know, a consumer HomePod or something like that. It should bring the same emotions to the highest level of equipment, because what we're trying to do is bring that song as close to reality as possible at home, right? And I think that's the question, that's the thing I keep telling myself. Am I still enjoying the song, or is it the equipment that's making me excited? And if I ever say it's the equipment, then I realize I'm actually off kilter a little bit, so try and centralize myself that way again.
I did do it as a job for a while, for kind of a retailer, and I did lose the passion for it. So it's kind of like when I stepped back from that, I kind of rekindled my love with the music, which is what we all got into this for. We didn't get into this for the gear as such. We got into it for the reproduction of the music. So again, it's kind of taking a step back sometimes and appreciating the music and not the equipment that kind of reignites your love for music. So I do still have that kind of sit at home, sit down, listen to something and be like, this sounds incredible. And it's not necessarily because I'm analysing the gear, it's because I'm enjoying the song. So yeah, it's definitely one of those. You have to take a step back sometimes and just reevaluate your kind of perspective on it.
You know, this is going to be a two-part answer for me, and it's going to come from a completely different aspect. I started recommending it. I'm a cheap bastard. And I started, I was in our audiophile back in the day, and then I took over our headphones, our computer. And people would be asking, like, hey, I need to do this. And I was just upset they were spending too much money. That was my thing. They're like, why are you buying that when you can buy this? It's just as good. So I just, without any job or any benefit to it, I was just telling, no, buy this and this and this. Buy this and this and this. And eventually, doing that for several years made it so that I could have an income because I was making a percentage on this and this and this. But it was always, the passion was like, people are going way too far, way too fast. They just need to calm down and get the right thing. And then, so that has been the mantra of my channel. As much as I'm doing like $3,000, $4,000 headphones now, it's still like, I do the price to performance balance. That's not answering your question at all. Your question was keeping the passion alive, and what do you do as far as other hobbies? So I find that I can feed this, the audiophile thing, from other hobbies. Watching TV, watching movies, watching anime, because those have the thing that we all want, music in it. That's why when people come to my house, it's like, what the hell's playing? And it's like, oh, that's track 13 on the Game of Thrones season 5 soundtrack. Because I was introduced to that music, just like we discussed previously, and it emotionally resonated with me. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes part of the whole, like, oh, now it's part of this hobby too. So like other hobbies, other medias, you know, going out, going to concerts, like you said, or you bring that in. So you just gotta try to, there's some hobbies that don't help. Cooking doesn't really help the audiophile community, I don't think. Unless you can figure out a way to tell me how that is and I'll get on it. But so yeah, if I can have my other hobbies just have something to do with music, and I'm not, because I don't want to spend all day thinking about how can I monetize my watching TV habits. I don't want that. But it's nice to know, like, oh, I'm watching a movie, watching Oppenheimer, and that track comes on when they're, spoiler alerts, are going to test a bomb in that movie. And like, I need this track, I need to hear this track, but not just in this movie, I got to hear it on this headphone, and then bring it in. So my other hobbies sort of feed this, which I guess I can't call it a hobby anymore. Like, you're paid for something, it's not a hobby, but it's like, that's the question.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, but occasionally I will just be like, no. 3 days in a row I will not listen to a single thing, which is like, it's weird, it's eerie. To like not be in your kitchen and then just nothing happened. And you just, no,
it's for me, well, the initial answer was I never tried to make it my job. I started it as a hobby. I quite deliberately never did anything which would lean towards that. I didn't take affiliate links or sponsorships. It was just in my free time, I do this and I put videos on YouTube, and that's great. Later on, I was fortunate that Headphones.com asked me to join them, and that's worked pretty well just because of how everything is set up. So I can review things basically at my own pace. I can review what I like, I can say what I like. It's very disconnected from the sort of business itself, because it's not trying to generate sales, it's trying to promote a sort of platform and trust for the brand. And so just making good videos does that. And that means that because I can do things as I always was, as just making the videos I want, about what I want, and doing it how I want. I don't feel the pressure to kind of get one out each week or get something out and say something specific. It's just this is cool, I'm going to enjoy reviewing that, and so I'm going to spend time filming it and listen to it, and I feel very fortunate, and I still very much enjoy it.
I am jealous that you think one a week is a lot.
How do you think you were doing 2 a day at one point?
I did 2, if you count the Zero Views and Name Your Fetish channels, and I try to do every other day on both of those.
How did you not burn out?
Because I'm the best. Because I still like music enough.
But then, I mean, with that as well, there's other things like I've been really enjoying getting into the more videography side of things. Because initially, I literally had a camera stuck to my forehead and put down the table and reviewed exactly. And then since then, been kind of doing things properly, so to speak.
How's it like coming in front of the camera?
So a lot of people thought that I wasn't on camera because I was like afraid to show my face or something. It wasn't that. It was literally just that is the easiest way to do it. And because I didn't have that much free time outside what was my main job at the time, not having tons of time spent editing and filming B-roll and stuff was important. But also I didn't want me to be the focus. The product is the focus. That's what I'm talking about. And I try to keep it like that now as well.
We agree. I just didn't think I was important.
You're here to talk about the product. If you want to hear me ramble about stuff, join the Patreon chat. But yeah,
I need to get in your Patreon chat. see what you're saying about me behind my back. Where's my head?
As a viewer, you all seem to be collaborating and interacting with each other suddenly in a way that you don't recall before. Has something triggered that? Or
You know, I can say
We've known each other for years.
Yeah, on the internet space, like we've talked for years, but we never worked like couldn't do that until you came to the States for one of the things that I think I met you there first.
Yeah.
So Koji, I met him for the first time in Munich.
That's right, yeah.
So like, and this.
But I'd known him 3 years prior to that as well. We literally talking every day.
We originally met in Zeos Patreon chat.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, my patronage chat was huge at one point. Like everyone just fell into it, and then eventually they started their own. They moved away. You're still in my patronage chat. Still there.
Yeah.
Koji's still.
Yeah, I'm
You
definitely.
there?
Yes, definitely.
There. You're not there.
I'm not. I'm the odd one out. I've just had headphones.
We'll sort him out later afterwards, after the show.
This is such a small, like as small as the audiophile community is. The audiophile online presence community is even smaller. It's like 10 people maybe.
That's a bit
Well, it's 10 people that I could name off the top of my head without like digging through things. But it's like, and I have no one to ask questions to. So I'm like, hey, what's your thing?
Because that's the thing is, and talking about keeping the passion alive and stuff, it helps when you're regularly speaking to people who are equally as passionate about it, and then not just sort of talking online, but doing things like later on at Canjam SoCal this year. I'm not just going to SoCal, there's about 10, 14 of us, I think, that have booked a house together on the beach.
Yeah, and like days before, like I'm going in Monday for the show on the weekend.
Yeah, and like we all went out
So
so much
much
place and had a meet up before this event, and so just that kind of stuff as well. There's a lot of people who are very passionate about it and just hanging out with them. Not talking about audio.
Most of my friends that I've kept through the years, I've met playing Garisma. Like I literally, it was just a thing we all had in common. You need one commonality, and then you're like, oh. And even if they go off and become truck drivers and lawyers and everything else, it's like you still had that start. That common ground, and then you sort of stick it out with it.
And also the market's moving so quickly that we're literally keeping each other at pace. It's almost impossible to constantly be on top of everything all the time, just yourself. So
I know review, I don't need to really do it.
Yeah, it was sort of like bouncing off of each other a lot in regards to information sending and collaborations and actually working out what's happening kind of thing. So it's a very tight-knit community. Obviously, as you guys are all here, you know. So
as much as audio can be dangerous to your wallet, though, the other problem is that the kind of person that gets very much into audio and spends quite a bit on it, if you hang around those people as well, chances are they're also going to be into espresso or something like that, and you will end up spending money on other things.
Yeah, watches, camera equipment, like there's other hobbies that I don't know, I mean, that have meetings and they have, I feel like you can't get together and stare at a watch very long, but you can get together and listen to music.
Yeah.
for a long time, yeah.
That's probably the main reason why this community is so friendly.
Yeah.
It's a thing you can get together and do.
Well, there's people here that I spend just as much time talking about the
Like if we said, let's stop and listen to the song, everyone here would agree to listen to the song.
Yeah.
But if we said, hey, let's stop and let's look at this watch, which by the way is a glycine, but like no one's gonna be like, and I feel like that's a very like, ooh, look, and that's,
Beyond the oh nice, okay, this part's cool, that's it really.
Yeah.
But music sort of crosses the boundaries of language and culture and everything. So and I constantly listen to music from all kinds of countries across the world anyway. That's part of my library. And some of the languages obviously I don't speak, but the innate characteristics of that song will always translate. It will always translate and bring the emotions out. So that part, I think, is just so communal, it's so great.
So I'm quite young, obviously. Lots of people my age have had AirPods in, Bluetooth headphones plugged into their phones, well, not Bluetooth plugged into their phone, and listening to music for a long time. And lots of them listen to music really loudly because they just get desensitized, they turn it off. How do you make sure you're not listening to music so loudly that it might damage your hearing?
okay.
Practice. I think it's just one of those, because we're aware that we use our ears to kind of judge equipment, we kind of become aware of the levels we kind of listen to, that we just don't. Again, I don't measure mine on a meter or anything like that. I don't have a sound pressure level meter, but I'm well aware that I'm listen to a lot lower than most people would, based on, again, you can literally walk around the show sometimes, and some of the levels that people listen to, you're like,
Terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah,
It's terrifying.
Organic, the organics into the speakers from like 30 feet away. I was like,
yeah.
When you can recognize a song across the room, that's a very bad sign.
So
Yeah.
it's just being self-aware.
When you make your living off your hearing, you're just a bit more, you just think about it more and you're just kind of more worried, I guess. Like we went out last night, we went to a blues bar and it was quite loud. And I normally carry earplugs around with me. We didn't have any, so we just put paper towels in our ears.
I gave him some paper towels and like you roll them and just shove them in your ears. And I'll be the only idiot there with glue coming out of my ear holes, but you know what? I was able to enjoy it without going down.
If it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid.
Plus, I'm not a 24-hour music listener. Like I said, I do my job and then I do music and TV shows and other things, but when it's not on, it's off. And then if it does come on, maybe 10% of the time it's at a volume that everyone's complaining about. But I know I'm not hurting my hearing. You figure it out.
That is a problem, though.
Like
It's a huge problem.
In 20 to 30 years, there's actually going to be just a huge number of people with significant hearing loss.
Yeah.
Because people nowadays are just listening a lot louder, and it is a problem.
It was not
For
like,
me, for example, it's a necessity. For example, I walk into the wall twice as hard if I was actually listening twice as loud and losing my hearing. So I lost my sight, I think, when I was about 12. Pretty much, and my vision is basically 1 inch away from my retina. So basically anything up here becomes a fog. So right from school, because I came from a background where music was very, very heavily influenced, especially music theory and stuff, the first thing they would tell you is, look after your hearing. Not so loud. If you feel as though you're enjoying it a little bit too much, turn it down. Genuinely. And the most kind of biggest advice I think I can give you is, if you're listening to something and you think it's slightly loud, just switch it off for 30 seconds and switch it back on again. You will realize how freaking loud you were listening. Because when you listen to it again after that pause, it literally blasts your eardrums. I think it's the best indicator that I can personally advise to you guys.
That's brilliant advice, yeah. Because also nowadays, like equipment has much lower levels of distortion.
Yeah, so you can just turn it up and up and up.
Turn it up and up and up.
Yeah.
Your ears, because it's not distorting, it's not fatiguing, so you end up listening louder than you expect to be listening. So, yeah, as I said, like, just turn it off for 30 seconds, turn it back on.
And you really realize how loud it is. Yeah.
That's going to be loud, and turn it down.
I mean, the loudest listener I ever knew was Metal 571, if you know the other review.
Yeah.
Metal came to my apartment once, and I gave him a closed-back set of headphones. I forget what they were. They might have been the, what was the closed-back?
Neumann's, I think, at the time. No?
Woodback Odyssey.
Was it? Yeah.
I forget what they were. They were like really nice. And he was in my office sitting at my desk and he had the headphones on. And I like went to ask him a question and he didn't hear him and I tapped him and he pulled them off and I almost fell down. So I was like, oh my God, please. I don't even damage it. But I have nieces and nephews. I have young people in my family. And I always give them audio equipment, like obviously. But it's like, hey, you need headphones that aren't terrible. And then I'll make sure that they know, like, look, just listen. If you are listening to like speakers and you can keep up a proper conversation without raising your voice, it might be too low. But if you can't have a conversation, it's definitely too loud. Like there's a certain perfect volume. And I know people are more sensitive. My brother is like, turn it down. It's like barely playing. So it's like, it's individual. But telling youth to play quiet is literally not going to help because they will not listen. Remember you, Rihanna? You listen to anything anyone says?
Do you have AirPods Pro 2s?
No, there you go.
All I ever see people complaining about the iPhone, turn the volume down. I'm like, if you're getting that, probably not.
It's probably too
I
loud.
mean, just protect your hearing.
Yeah.
I actually carry earplugs with me, attuned earplugs. Nothing custom. Right now I'm using Sennheiser's latest one with all the different filters in it. And then that way, if you go to a movie that's really, really loud, for example, or a concert, of course, you can do that. The reason I asked to get AirPods Pro 2s is because a really interesting use case is to use its transparency feature, its pass-through feature. And the 2 specifically clamps everything down very gracefully to 85 dB. So, if you get in your car, put them on, if you just want to hear what it's going to do. I've worn several concerts using them that way. And it's kind of a bit counterintuitive to put something in transparency mode and expecting it to clamp down, but it does pretty gracefully. It actually is a really sophisticated clamp down, like a quieting circuit, because if you use the Bose Quiet Comfort Buds 2, whatever they're called, they cancel a lot of noise. In noise canceling mode, if you put them in pass-through, it will clamp down on, I don't know what its cutoff is, but it does it very coarsely, and it does it across the frequency spectrum, almost like I mentioned earlier, like an artificial, like a stapedius reflex, but it's just like, bam, everything just shuts down. So with the AirPods Pro 2s, when they first came out, I was so curious about that function. And if you have a pair, no, you don't, but you should pick them up if you like the AirPods. And what was very interesting is I was listening to the fan noise, and I had somebody clap next to my ear, whereas the Bose would clamp down everything. The fan noise was pretty consistent, didn't get affected, but the clap, which was right next to my ear, was kept to 85 dB. So if you want to know what 85 dB sounds like, turn up your car stereo really, really, really loud, and then put the AirPods Pro 2 in transparency mode, because it won't let you hear more than 85.
Yeah, I actually have a decibel meter. I bought like a wall mount one for my listening space, just to keep an eye on it, see what my average is. Although it's not a very good one, I think I would need a better one to actually keep track, because it'll be like usually under 80. Dead silence like 42, and then if I'm really showing something off, it'll see as flash 106. But if it flashes it, like you find to listen to loud things for a split second, you just can't have 106 decibels for an hour. That's not going to work very well.
So with your experience, what's the top piece of advice you'd give someone new to the hobby?
New to the hobby, stop.
Get information from multiple sources. Don't just trust one reviewer or forum or group. That's one thing, is that it doesn't really matter what or who you're talking about. There is always going to be some level of kind of groupthink going on. Yeah. And you absolutely should. Don't just take my word for something, don't just take Zeus' word for something, don't just take Hansal's or Edvard's word for something, just check different places. And if you possibly can, come to an event like this, because trying stuff, there is no substitute for trying something. That's
the hardest part of this hobby, is like, you can't just tell someone, well, go listen to it, because 100% of the headphones are usually not available.
Unless you live in Singapore.
Unless you live in Singapore or Japan. I've been to Japan and Akihabara and that. But it's very hard. Again, multiple sources. And I can't stress this enough. My career, from where I started reviewing, I think it was like a set of costs that were terrible, and owning my Sennheisers, I start slow. I start with...
It's a journey, not a sprint, man. It's a journey.
I knew someone joined my Patreon and messaged me and said, hey, I'm just getting into this. I'm 18. I just got this much money from a thing. I want to spend $2,000 on this headphone.
What? Yeah.
And I was like, do not.
It took me 15 years to do that.
Because I can't imagine if someone like as like a 15, 16-year-old just sat down with his daddy's HE1s, and just that was his reference point. You go nowhere from it.
Yep.
So if you have that budget, if for some reason you have that budget, you don't spend it on that. You buy multiple different cheaper things. Enjoy the cheap stuff, because you only get to enjoy it until you move on and move up. Because if you start too high up on the ladder, you're going to end up being the guy putting crystals on your act.
And the problem also is that you don't know what you like. It's almost impossible to know what you prefer. And if you start at the top, like we're talking about, $2,000-$3,000, you can't consistently try everything. It's impossible to learn. That's why it's a journey, you know?
Friends that are also, you got to find the hobby. You got to get online, get into groups, and be like, hey, I like headphones, or I like music. Just a music appreciation is universal.
Yes.
You'll find way more people that are into music than
equipment.
Who likes headphones, and it's going to be a weird thing. So
I don't know, it's getting big now.
I'm getting big, but it's still a matter of like, if you can just be with people and get real world experience with things. I would say quell your budget to
$200-300.
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
like
300, £200-300.
The £200-300 mark.
Money doesn't buy happiness. It just
Take a play,
it's close.
Me and Z were talking about this, like.
I've seen a sad person.
I fell in the water once on a jet ski. It was not fun.
Both me and Z had headphones for, what was it, 10 years? Like, we were our first headphones, we literally were discussing this. Our first headphones were consistent for a decade before we expanded,
I thought when I was like coming into high school, I thought I was going to get these expensive $80 headphones. These Sennheisers, they're German, and they were the Sennheiser HD280 Pros. They were the monitoring headphones, and I needed them because I was living at home, family. I needed them to shut up. So it was 30 decibels of attenuation, and that was the greatest headphone in the world.
DT250s for me from 2002-3 to 2011. So I lived with it.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the best piece of advice is don't go in too high. Like, keep your budget low, try and listen to stuff if possible. Because again, like the quality now that you can get from a lower end
is so different.
It's massively different to what you can get 15 years ago.
Oh my God, yes.
Imagine starting my channel over. Like if I just erased the entire history, started now, where would you begin?
Exactly. Everything's
bad one.
Great.
There's almost nothing
there's very few
absolutely abysmal. Except for the Cost Pro 4AA reboots. Not buy those.
On that point, actually, in terms of advice to give someone new, you will very often see people online saying, "Oh, don't get that. That's terrible." And 9 out of 10 times, it's not terrible. It's just that there's something else which maybe is slightly better. Actually, nowadays, there's some terrible stuff, but most stuff's pretty good. It's kind of hard to make
in reference
bad choice.
In reference to that, I don't do tier lists. People have asked me forever, do a tier list. Do the S tier, A tier. And I refuse because what I think is a B tier headphone might be your perfect headphone.
Exactly.
It might be like the ultimate headphone. That's why when I don't put rating systems. I don't want to lock it to a number because someone will look at it and go, here's a list, there's a top 5. Obviously you want the number 1, and number 2 is garbage, and everything below it is garbage. And it's not the way it works. It's so individual. It's so like the sound signature versus the cost and convenience and wired Bluetooth. So it's just like, it's hard because it makes it difficult to like navigate recommendations, but I can't put a fixed point that this is the best, and therefore everyone should gravitate towards it, because it may not be the best for you. So you got to start cheap. You just got to throw. I know plenty of people. I run the swap meet channel when you're a patron of swap meet, and I will watch people say, "Hey, I want to buy this," buy it, then sell it 2 months later to buy something else, and then sell that, because it's a constant search. You're never going to find.
It's all about not knowing what you want, and that's why it's so difficult to start right at the beginning, right at the top end. You need to find what you truly like. And then narrow that search down.
Again, come to Canjam.
Yeah, I think that's the best way.
It's usually a headphone store in every major city. Like you go to, I don't know if B&H has it up, or there's one, Audio 46 will probably have a decent one, like New York. I'm sure London here has something that you would know. Take the time and try not to find one that's too posh and it's only have like $1,500 and above. Like, there'll be some place that'll actually help you start. And that's it. It's a difficult thing because you're literally lost. You have no options. So
familiarize yourself with the Hi-Fi classifieds area as well. No, for real. I mean, you find good deals there.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And then you can also.
Oh yeah, some of my first headphones were used.
If it doesn't work out, you'll probably get your best.
Next used. Yeah.
You get such amazing deals.
Like I just said, people buy it and sell it, and they sell it at a loss almost every time. Yep. So you're not investing in the headphone market to make money.
Exactly. You depreciate. It's a depreciation immediately. So
you're going to lose a lot of it. So you might as well take advantage of that.
Yes.
Go out, buy 3 or 4 headphones. You know what? Buy 3 or 4 headphones, assess them, and used, obviously, and then sell the ones you didn't like. Keep the ones you did, and then buy another 2 or 3. Just keep the cycle going. Sell them to your friends and family for a loss. You're going to take a loss. You want to get into this thing, you're going to take a loss.
Every time.
Every goddamn time. But you know what? At least you'll experience so much that you might actually find the things you love.
I think this will relate because it's a cost-effect sort of formula. And it also ties in with the emotional dimension earlier. I've upgraded step by step since I was in the sixth form of school millions of years ago. And I actually now prefer my secondary system because it's all the stuff I've had and kept. And I find what I would call my reference system is now so analytical. It shows up the quality of the engineering So I listen to a lot of classical music, so I'm listening to orchestras, perspective, dimension, focus, imaging, and a lot of it just drives me around the bend because it shows up what they haven't done right when they were supposedly mastering the thing. Is that a shared view?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, my house has, let's see, 3 places I can watch media. I got a TV in the basement of our room speakers. I got a sunroom. I got the big home theater with a 150-inch screen, and I don't enjoy that as much as the little setup on the side with the little tiny clip speakers. It's just, again, analytical and room corrected completely versus just, you like something.
Euphoria.
You stop doing the chase for the analytical. When I go to an audio show that's not a specifically headline, go to like a Axpona or a Munich for that matter, and it's you could tell the speaker companies you're gonna like because the people there are just I love music too. Do you love music? And then there's the other ones that are like specifically explaining how they tuned this to have the absolute flattest response. It's like, you will accomplish that, but
there's kind of a reason why you see people who have been in the hobby a while tend not to just upgrade linearly and get one thing and the next thing and the next thing. They end up with a few different things, kind of for that reason alone. I mean, for me, I've got like the Hifi, for example, which is an immensely resolving headphone. It's very neutral and it's great as a sort of reference point. But I use my ZMF Atriums a lot more, not because they're more detailed, they're not because they're better at separation or anything like that, they're not, but just because for a lot of music, they're just a lot more enjoyable. It's not necessarily about having the utmost technical performance, but I also wouldn't want to give up my Sesbara and just use
It's good to have both sides of the spectrum.
Exactly. So you end up wanting some more than the others, but definitely with tracks that have worse production quality, the best system is often not the best option. But then if you have really, really nicely produced tracks, it's just not the same.
It's not the same. It doesn't. It's not even close. Yeah.
Kind of a lot of the high-end systems you find here, like they only work with certain music because they just are so ruthless that anything that's slightly poorly recorded, or to be fair, a lot of it's not tuned for kind of even more upbeat or heavier kind of rock music or anything like that. They just fall apart because, again, like those tracks aren't necessarily recorded the best or mastered the best. So it's great to have reference points to really like analyze a track, but as Cameron quite rightly said, like we all have headphones that aren't ruthless, that we tend to listen to more often than we would on a reference system.
Do you want to analyze basically?
Yeah. You need. I see it as a mountain climbing. Everyone starts out and they want the best, and they climb this mountain. And at some point, you never reach the top. At some point, you just say, you know what? Screw that, and you walk back down the mountain. And you go back to the part where you were happy, where the weather wasn't quite as harsh, and you just could enjoy your life. That's it. Like I have $1,000 IMs that are super analytical.
If you're a classical music enthusiast and you find yourself being, there was a documentary about Von Karajan, and if you've ever seen it, he talks about something, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like there's no perfect seat, right? So with a recording, he was trying to give you a different experience, right? And he was very, very careful and methodical about that. And once I saw that, I realized I would just try to enjoy the performance, realizing it was, it wasn't going to be like it was live. That maybe he or anybody else that's working on it is trying to give me a understanding that they can't capture everything that you might enjoy at a live performance, right?
He spent a lot of time actually at the mastering stage. That what he was conducting.
You might have seen that same documentary. I've seen a couple of them.
Trying to get it the mass-produced audience. But I think you're right. The reference system is brilliant with first-rate recording. But I must admit, the emotional dimension is actually with my legacy system.
I don't know if these guys are the same, but like I've sold headphones and then rebought the same model.
Yes, many times.
So many times, because I'm just like, they were just enjoyable.
I did the actual opposite. I had a headphone, got rid of it, and then bought it again. Not because it sounded good. It sounded The Shure 1540s are one of the most beautifully built, lightest, comfortable headphones on earth. I hate the way they sound. absolutely basically boring. But I bought them again because I hate them. Because I need something I can put in my head and go, okay, this is what I don't like. And I'll plug them into amplifiers. They're a great tester amplifiers. Something tubey, something that's supposed to change the sound. Because I like a headphone, I plug into a tube amp, and I like it again. It's like, I don't know, I can't visualize a change. You take those headphones, you plug them into even the small little Exo 604 tube hybrid, and all of a sudden, I like that. You did it with the Sennheisers, you did it with the Mascobo.
Yeah.
What was the Mascobo one?
Mascobo 465.
No, that was.
The Bakun. I don't know the modeling, but it's the Bakun amplifier.
I am in a small group of people who dislikes the Sennheiser HC 800s. Because I just don't.
I don't like them.
You don't like them? All right, high five. Here's the thing. You go to the Mascobo booth before he tears down. There's an amplifier with 2 quarter-inch jacks.
Yep.
One says voltage and one says current. And you could literally plug them in one, and they sound exactly like you and I dislike them for. And you plug it 3 inches over, and I love those headphones.
Again, I've had systems where they've sounded fantastic, but on a whole, I don't enjoy
So
them.
you, with your linear system, there's probably one part of it you could just swap out.
Yep.
And be like, you know what? That's the test. Does this make enough of a difference? Whether it's Magic Rocks or a new dad or do it, but it's just like you put it there. And
Don't buy the Magic Rocks.
unless I'm selling. But yeah, no.
But there comes a point.
It's okay to have a system you don't quite prefer and everything, because it's a good baseline to test other things. Granted, it's hard to swap out, tens of thousands of dollars and stuff.
There comes a point when you realize, do you want euphoria? Do you want to fall into the music, or do you want to be present to see what the engineer was thinking and doing and what was actually happening in the recording studio? I think those are two very different listening experiences. There comes a point sometimes where on a very high-end reference system where, because the track is so well mastered, you can literally fall into the music and almost feel as though you can see from the musician's point of view, but those points are always very rare. That's why we invest in tube amplifiers, because the euphoric nature, in my experience, always wins. Always being taken away, always kind of wins, I think that's what you come to realize, that one system is always good for reference, another one sometimes is always good for, I don't care, I just want to listen. I just want to listen to music.
Sometimes you get used to stuff a bit too much as well. And if you just listen to kind of higher end audio stuff, if you're here, you're probably in that category where you've not listened to something truly crap. Still got a pair of pros. Every now and then, if I've been listening to whatever I'm listening to, a lot of them run balance as well. They don't save them. Just that if I go, I'm not sure if this is actually that impressive, then I put them on. And never mind.
You know where I enjoy music almost the most? In my car. And I'm not talking about in my car with an enhanced DSP corrected system.
You still have the speakers.
I still have speakers in the back seat of my black car.
Speakers on.
No, they're Wavecrest HV1s. But like my Toyota Tacoma, my 06 Toyota Tacoma, I'll get in it, it'll Bluetooth to a FM transmitter that comes in the radio. I'm talking about the least audiophile you can get. But when I'm driving along and a song comes on from my phone, that's the most I'll be engaged with it. Because I literally can't. Do you imagine the amount of effort it would take to room correct a 2006 Toyota Tacoma, the proper? It's like, you know what? This is so far out. I just have to enjoy it. And then we were talking about tubes for a second. But you mentioned tubes.
I did.
And the one thing I will say about tube amps is, if you buy them, you're buying them to hurt the quality of your music in a good way.
In a very good way. Yes.
No one.
Yes.
One of the problems I had with the WAD 22, I did the WAD 22 years ago, is it sounded exactly like a solid state. It was so clean. He was so obsessed with getting it clean that it was useless as a tube amp. I remember just like, I plugged it from one to the other and I couldn't tell the difference. And now with the 23 you had at your office, it's finally, again, it sounds like it's taking it and damaging the signal in the best way possible. You have to be okay with doing that. Your whole system, buy a cheap tube amp and use it as a preamp.
Definitely.
It'll just wonk the hell out of everything. You know what? You'll probably enjoy
Love it.
I think you'll love life a little bit more.
Yeah. If you are here and if you think you're getting a tube to get better sound, you're wrong. You're getting a tube to get more enjoyable sound most of the time.
Which is better sound.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Less technical.
yeah. I mean, it may not measure as well, but don't get caught up in that.
Don't live and die by via measurements.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, if you're looking at your music rather than listening to it throughout the session, you're doing something very strange or from a very different perspective, I suppose, really. So you really should be fading away. You really should be taken away. I mean, it's fine to look at the measurements. It's good to know.
It's more of an engineering, like engineers can go over the measurements.
Yeah. I mean, you build the headphones, you look at it as much as you want, but when I'm sitting here, please let me fade away, just for a little bit, you know?